everyone, welcome to this guide to enrichment at Prince Henry's. So to start us off, what actually is enrichment? Well, enrichment are lessons that are designed to broaden your sixth form experience. Everyone takes part in some form of enrichment at Prince Henry's because we really believe that education is about more than just passing exams. It's about developing you as a whole person. It's about looking at your skills and developing those. It's about looking at your interests or about developing new interests. And it's about looking at you more than just as somebody who's doing A-levels, but as somebody who can do all sorts of other things, be that for relaxation, be that for learning something new, finding out a new interest, all of those things enrichment covers. And we have three main strands of enrichment. On the one hand, we've got the accredited courses, and these are the ones that will lead to a qualification that gives you points towards your university entrance. We've also got modules, most of which are 8 weeks long, which are taster activities in different subjects, different areas of interest. You'll do 8 weeks of one subject, then you'll swap and move on to 8 weeks of something else, and you'll be able to select from a list there of the things that you're interested in. And then normally the third strand of enrichment that the vast majority of people at Prince Henry's get involved in is volunteering. In September, unfortunately, we're going to have to be very limited in the volunteering that we're offering because of social distancing and of trying not to mix different year groups too much. Normally, the volunteering that most people do involves working with students lower down the school. And because we're trying to avoid that, that might not be able to happen straight away. But as soon as we're safe to do that, we'll get that back involved into the sixth form programme. Okay, so different levels of enrichment that you can get involved in. The red tier is for students taking 3 A-level subjects mainly, and this is the broadest enrichment offer that we have. You'll do one of the accredited courses and then between 2 and 5 of the modules, depending on which ones you pick. Some of them are 8 weeks and you repeat and go into different ones. Some of the modules actually take the full year. And it's 2 to 5. You'll do 3 in year 12, normally, if you're on the 8-week rotation, and 2 in year 13. We finish a little bit early in year 13 to allow more time for revision at the end. Okay, and then usually one volunteering activity as well. For those people taking 4 A-levels, that is a lot of work. And so normally that replaces the accredited enrichment course. In a way, your 4th A-level is your enrichment. So we would recommend that you would do the modules rather than the courses. However, there are always some people who'd rather do one of the courses, in which case that's fine. You do that, but not the modules. The only people this doesn't really apply to is those of you who have chosen 4 subjects to start with, but who are planning to drop one within that first half term. If that's the case, then you'd be better doing the red tier enrichment. You can probably manage that because it's the longer term workload of doing 4 A-levels over the 2 years where we'd suggest that you probably don't take on both the modules and the enrichment courses. If you're doing 4 A-levels, you can do a course in your first year and modules in your second year, or you can do modules across the 2 years, but not think about doing the courses. This level is also fine for people who are doing 3 A-levels but really don't like any of the courses on offer. That's okay. You don't have to do one of the courses at all, and I would only choose one if you actually want to do them, because none of them are an easy option. So if you decide that you'd rather just do the enrichment modules, that's okay as well. And then most people, again, would do volunteering once volunteering's safe. The other people that this applies to are people taking the professional vocational subjects, and these are the subjects that have a high percentage of coursework. So your BTECs and your Cambridge Nationals and your applied general qualifications. If all your subjects fall into that bracket, then you've got a lot of coursework to do. So to do a course and modules on top of that is probably a lot. So if you're in that position, then we probably say you should go for the blue tier, either a course or the modules, so that you're making sure that you've got enough time to complete that coursework. Okay. And then finally, the yellow tier. Sometimes this is, we ask you to go into this tier, and this is usually for students who are taking professional vocational subjects, possibly with resit English and maths. They might be taking 2 rather than 3 of the A-levels, or for students who've got onto the courses but are in 2 minds about whether sixth form's right for them, or whether college might be an option, or whether they do 1 year and then go on to an apprenticeship. If you're in that position, then you might well be asked to join the ASDAN COPE course, because that will give you the skills that you need to make that decision about what your next step is, and the study skills and things that are important for continuing at level 3 study. If you do the COPE course, you do that in the first year. Usually in the second year, if you stay on into the second year, you can do modules and a volunteering activity alongside that. If you like the sound of the ASDAN course, when you find out a bit more about it from the enrichment prospectus, and you think actually you'd really like to do that even if you don't fall into this tier, it does give points for university, and we always have a couple of people every year who opt into that as well, but the numbers are limited, and we tend to prioritise those students who need that kind of course for their progression. But then if there are others who want to opt into it, we'll look at that as well. Okay, a word about ESET. If you're doing the ESET programme, and you will know who you are, you'll have had a separate ESET invitation, that by and large replaces the enrichment courses and the modules for most students. However, if you've got a burning desire to do an EPQ and you really, really want to do it, or you think core maths would be great for you, then we can usually fit the ESET around doing a course or modules. I wouldn't recommend doing both if you're doing ESET, because if you're working at that level in sport and you need to put that time and commitment into your sport, and you're doing your A levels, then you haven't got a huge amount of time to devote to doing other things. But talk to me about it if you're an ESET student, and we can fit that around your timetable, and your ESET mentor can work on that with you. Okay, so in terms of courses, got 3 courses on offer next year. The first one is the Extended Project Qualification, or EPQ. It's worth half the UCAS points of an A level, and I emailed some information out about this to you back in May, so that you could see how that works. It's valued by all universities, and it's a really good chance to really go for something that you're massively interested in. We've had people doing EPQs on all sorts of things. This year, I've got people doing EPQs on transgender athletes competing in athletics. I've got people doing EPQs on whether climbing should be included in the Olympics, and then the impact of that on the climbing community. I've had somebody who did whether they could make and build their own electric guitar for the same budget as an entry-level one that they could buy from the shops, but produce a better guitar for doing that. I've had someone who's designed a 3D special effects makeup sort of face mask, and looked into the best way to do that and whether she could produce a professional quality makeup mask, which led on to her future career. So it's all sorts of everything. We always have history ones every year. I had one this year as to whether the voting age should be reduced to 16. So whatever you're interested in, you can do an EPQ on that, and it's a really good qualification. There are quite a few universities who will give you an offer of, say, get 3 grade A's at A level, or 2 A's and a B if you get a grade A in your EPQ. So really valued by a lot of universities. Second qualification is core maths. Again, so this one's worth the same points as an AS level, and it's for anybody who enjoyed maths at GCSE and would quite like to carry on and do a bit more maths, but doesn't want to take a full A level in maths. And it takes the GCSE maths, it goes a little bit beyond GCSE maths, but it takes it and applies it more to real life issues, real world situations. Really useful for anyone interested in sort of those business and finance type areas, but who isn't taking A-level maths, but also for students who are taking courses that need mathematical skills, but not necessarily the A-level skills. So things like biology, geography, psychology, all the ones that need you to be able to manipulate data and those sorts of things, useful for those subjects. And then anyone, as I say, who just likes maths, but didn't want to carry it on to A-level. And then the final one, as I mentioned, the ASDAN COPE course is designed to develop and practice and show evidence of some of the core skills that you need, both for going on to higher education and university, but also for going into training and employment. And it evidences your teamwork skills, your problem solving, your presentations. You'll have mock interviews and improve your interview technique. You'll improve your skills of chairing and leading a meeting, and all sorts of important life skills that can help you moving forwards. So those are our courses. Then onto the modules. These are normally taught, as I say, in 8-week blocks. We've got a few that are full year options. D of E's on there. Obviously, the Duke of Edinburgh Gold is a big commitment, and so we put it into the enrichment so that you can do that within your timetable day rather than doing it on top as an extracurricular if you're interested in doing that. Then we've got a range of different options that you can get involved in, from languages to sport. We've got MOOCs, which are massive open online courses. So universities put free short courses online in loads and loads of different subjects. And they're really good if you're wanting to explore whether something might be right for you at university, or whether you're wanting to look at something that you're interested in that isn't on the A-level spec, but that's linked to the subjects that you're interested in. So loads out there if you're wanting to learn a new skill, if you're wanting to learn a new language, all different sorts of things you can do a MOOC in. So that's quite a good option if you want to explore sort of some of your own interests through doing that. The other full year options, apart from Duke of Edinburgh, that we've got are Maths for Scientists. Now, this one is for anybody who's doing chemistry A-level or physics A-level, but not maths A-level. We tend to find that the students in that position struggle a little bit, particularly in year 13, with some of the maths that's needed, and the people who are doing maths are sort of a bit ahead of them in the class. So to fill that gap in, we're doing the maths that you would need specifically and only for chemistry and physics A-levels, and you have a year of building up those maths skills so that you don't have to learn everything on a maths A-level, but you do learn the ones that are going to help you the most to get your chemistry and physics A-level. So if you're in that position, Maths for Scientists is the course that I would say is very, 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 very strongly recommended for you to get the best that you can out of those A-levels. Apprenticeship preparation is for year 13, because that's largely the people who are actively seeking apprenticeships and going for interviews and working towards those. And that's with Mrs. Robinson, our careers teacher. So that'll apply to you next year. The one that won't be running from the start is intervention volunteering, which is where you offer to work either with a small group of Key Stage 3 students under the direction of a teacher, or work in a classroom supporting one-to-one a student who needs some help with their maths or their English normally, although we can arrange for you to go into other subject lessons if you're interested in doing that. And that's for people who want to go on to, possibly people who want to go on to teaching, possibly people who want to go on for working with people, quite useful for people wanting to go on for medicine and those sorts of things, to show evidence of volunteering with younger people. So if you're interested in that, then hopefully I'll be able to let you know when we can start on that one. And the others have all got descriptions in the enrichment booklet. The new enrichment booklet is going on the Firefly induction page in the next couple of days. I'm just sorting that out at the moment. What we've decided for September is that the first rotation is going to be taught virtually, so probably using Microsoft Teams. That's because year 12 and year 13 both mix up and are taught in the same groups for the enrichment. And it'd be, because we're trying to keep each year group as separate as we can and not mix the two together, we've decided that teaching it virtually is probably the best option in that first rotation, which does mean that a couple of the options may not be available. It's quite difficult to teach hands-on CPR first aid over Teams. So opt for the ones that you're interested in, but it may be that in the first instance, the modules that you take are slightly more limited, and then you'll get the ones that are harder to do virtually a little bit later in the year, hopefully. Okay. As I've said, volunteering opportunities won't start immediately in September, but usually they include Reading Club, which is supporting some of our Year 7 students who are weaker readers through a structured programme of developing their reading skills. Sums Club is the same but for maths, so again it's supporting them on a structured programme of improving their maths, working one-to-one with some of the Year 7 students. We have peer mentoring, where people support students who are finding particular difficulties with school. It might be organisation, it might be socialisation and fitting in, and we train you to work alongside them. We have form volunteers who go in and help the Year 7 form tutors to support their Year 7 forms and look at what they can do to help there. And finally, we have the option to volunteer in the community, and some people have got placements that they'd like to go out and work on, sometimes in charity shops or sometimes at Otley Courthouse and places like that. If you're interested in that, come and see me and we can try and support getting that set up. Sometimes that's going into a primary school one afternoon a week, if that's something you're interested in doing in the future, to try and help you build that skill set and that experience to be able to go for your applications. So as I say, not starting in September, but hopefully starting soon afterwards. So think carefully about your options. Don't just put down the same things as your mate, because that usually leads to you doing something that you're not really very interested in. So think about what you enjoy doing for a start, but then also don't just pick stuff that you think is going to sound easy. Think, which skills do I need to develop further? So the debating options might be really good for some of you who needs to develop their public speaking, but maybe in a smaller group environment first. What would be useful for your future career plans? What's going to help you in terms of what you want to do in the future? And can you manage your workload effectively? Don't take on so much at the start that you're going to struggle with it as you move a little bit further down the line, okay? So when do you choose? I'm going to, as I say, the new enrichment booklet will be posted on the induction section of Firefly shortly, and then you'll be able to browse through that and think about your options. And then on the induction day in school, on the first day of term for you, which is the 8th of September, you'll be able to make your options on that day and choose which ones you want to go on. You'll choose one course if you're taking a course, and then you'll choose 5 modules in order of preference. You'll only take 3 in year 12, but I need you to choose 5 because some are more popular than others and not everybody is going to get their first 3 choices. I try really hard where I possibly can to get everybody their first choice. Most people get their first and second choices, but from there on, I need to use your 4th and 5th choices. So make sure those 4th and 5th choices are things that you will be actually happy to do. Okay. D of E is often the one where we have more people opting for it than we have spaces. Our spaces are limited by the number of people that we can take on an expedition. If we have more people wanting to do D of E than I've got spaces for, then I will simply draw names out of a hat, and that's the fairest way I can think to do that. Okay, so hopefully that tells you what you need to know about enrichment, and if you've got any questions or queries, we'll be able to talk about it a little bit more in September. Right, take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.